Sandia. I know some of you think it's a little chilly down here, but I want you to know it is cold in St. Joseph. It is a wonderful thing to be able to come and speak with the people of this country in some of our darkest days. I don't know how you feel, but I think if you were true to yourself, you would agree that everything about you would demonstrate that we are in our darkest days. I don't really believe in coincidence, because the last time we were in our darkest days, the Dems were in power. I don't think of it as coincidence, I think of it as absence of ability. And I'm very happy that Noel Lynch and Santia mentioned the fact that on this place, just over 4 years ago, the Democratic Labour Party, in their bloodthirsty rush for power, felt it important to criticize, vilify, and to paint every single member of the Barbados Labour Party as being corrupt, as being dishonest. They said we all had bank accounts in the United States. And they promised that when they came to power, there would be all kinds of forensic audits, all kinds of investigations. All of this was for the purpose of winning a government, and so they won. But where were the forensic audits after that? It is ironic tonight that we are here because of the results of a forensic audit, but not a forensic audit about any Barbados Labour Party member. We are here tonight because of a forensic audit of a different kind, and one that, try as they might, they could not stop. I have no doubt that it would have been difficult for any member of the Democratic Labour Party team, whether they got money from CLICO, whether they bought CLICO's Jaguars after the last election, whatever happened. It would have been hard for them to sleep well if a forensic audit came on CLICO. But one came, and we are here to call for justice. Last time the prosecution was on the Barbados Labour Party, but now the prosecution is theirs. And while the Democratic Labour Party government did not run CLICO, and never did, CLICO is now the victim of the worst kind of mismanagement, and the Democratic Labour Party administration stands accused for being part of that mismanagement. And therefore they are complicit, and they now must stand in the dock. This DLP administration has a lot to answer for in the CLICO affair. They have to answer to the people. They have to answer to the policyholders. They have to answer to the people who now face an uncertain future, not knowing if they will ever get back their investment. And you know, there are some people that we don't speak of very often, but imagine those individuals who month after month after month have to pay a life insurance premium to CLICO. If that is you, put your hand in the air. Can you imagine? It is like going to buy a snow cone from a man who ain't got no ice. Every month you are paying a premium, and you dare not stop. Simply because a man named Leroy Paris with his friends in high places felt that he should have a private jet for $9 million, and he should do this and he should do that, and he should have big bonuses. These are our darkest days. This administration has a lot to answer for, because David Thompson, and I'm not afraid to call his name, and if he were alive, I wish he were alive. I wish he were alive. If he were alive, I would still be calling his name. They have a lot to answer for, because David Thompson, their then leader and Prime Minister, the lawyer for Leroy Paris, the lawyer for CLICO Life, the lawyer for CLICO Holdings, subjugated his duty to the people of this country to his friendship for Leroy Paris. the highest duty any man has is to his country. But I believe the facts have now shown that David Thompson felt he had a higher duty to his friend. And you know what is worse? To a man. Every single member of the Democratic Labour Party stood by and said nothing. Not a man lifted a hand to help a policyholder. And when the Barbados Labour Party felt that it was of such importance that we should launch political platforms across this country, they said we were only trying to cause a run on CLICO. We were being irresponsible. We were not being cooperative. And I'm happy that Noel reminded us of what the now Prime Minister said. He should be ashamed, that he should be punished with laughter. Not a man moved in the Democratic Labour Party to address any issue in relation to CLICO. They flew on the private jet. They bought the Jaguars from CLICO. Some of them may even have gotten loans and campaign finance. And the Prime Minister himself, the Prime Minister's law firm. You know, I was trying to think of a good word to describe what was happening at CLICO, what Leroy Parks was doing at CLICO, and I came up with the word rape. Rape! And if you don't like rape, we could say piracy. Those are good and fair adjectives to describe what was happening at CLICO, and David Thompson's law firm was a party to the rape and a party to the piracy. How did we get here? How did CLICO get into this position? How did Barbados come to be in a place where the office of Prime Minister is now so stained and tainted that even the very incumbent now, Frondell Stewart, must bow his head in shame? How did Barbados get to be in a place where the failing of a once mighty financial organization has now once again made us the laughing stock and made Barbados look bad? We got to this place because of two men. One living, one dead. One was the leader of a great nation, the other the leader of a great company. One has brought the reputation of this great country low, and the other one has shattered the fortunes of that great company so that it is now little more than dust. Both of these men were inextricably linked. There was an umbilical cord connecting them, spelling disaster for our people. We're not here tonight to criticize anybody's friendship. We all have friends. And we all have family, and sometimes the things they do we don't even approve of. But the difference is they say you can pick your friends, you can't pick your family. And David Thompson picked his friends. He was entitled to do that. He was entitled to do that. But if Thompson was selling snow cones and Paris was selling sauce, we would not care what they were doing. Would make no difference. Would make no difference. But one of them had a duty to policyholders when he ran CLICO's affairs, and the other one had a country to run. And in each case, the duty that they shared was a call to high purpose, a call to safeguard the interests of people who could not safeguard their own interests. The history between Paris and Thompson is long. I have a copy of the letter from the Ministry. This is not a fancy letter. This is just a simple letter from the Ministry of Finance in 1994, April, when Thompson was Minister of Finance. And in that letter, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Finance wrote to CLICO and said, I am to inform you that the Minister of Finance has approved a waiver of the purchaser's transfer tax payable in respect of the following property transfers from subsidiaries of CLICO. CLICO Agricultural Developments bought land at Todd's Plantation, transfer tax waive. Todd's Estate purchased Wakefield, Huddersfield and Clifton Hall Plantation, transfer tax waive. Other properties were bought. There were 13 properties in all bought, and David Thompson waived the purchaser's transfer tax for every single one at a time when our economy in 1994 was reeling, because it suited him to do it. And upon leaving office in September of 94, he went on to become CLICO's lawyer, Paris lawyer, CLICO Holdings lawyer. Now, it doesn't take a magic wand to figure out that the relationship between them went far back. And it was a lucrative relationship, don't fool yourself. If you read what is in the forensic report, you would see a section which said that Thompson and Associates acted for CLICO Holdings on the sale of Caribbean Commercial Bank. It was a sale for $25 million US. That is not a big sale. Thompson charged CLICO $2 million in legal fees. $2 million in legal fees. Now the truth is, the only body who could complain about a legal fee is the body that paid. If the body that paid happily, well then it is not your business or mine. But in this case, we should look at it a little closer. I spoke this week, well, the week just gone, to a very senior lawyer who said to me, Dale, I have acted on the sale of several banks in Barbados, bigger than CCB, and on no occasion did my fee go past $100,000. So we have to ask ourselves, what justifies a company paying $2 million in legal fees for the sale of Barbados' smallest bank? It wasn't the transfer of Barclays assets to First Caribbean, it was little CCB. $2 million. So Thompson had a very lucrative relationship with Paris. And I'm not talking about flying on the private jet again. The relationship went further. Thompson bought a place on Bay Street called Dewsbury House from a CLICO company. We know that Thompson's wife and Paris' wife own a property at Martins Bay together. All these things are now public. Thompson reaped great rewards from the relationship. But let's fast forward. Let's fast forward to December 30th, 2008. That is the fateful day and the day on which this tale properly begins. At December 30th, 2008, Leroy Parrish knew or ought to have known that CLICO was on the verge of collapse. Don't let him fool you, he must have known. And that is the day when Thompson and Associates rendered a false invoice to CLICO for $3.333 million. Now I want to repeat it. It was a false invoice. I spoke to some of the lawyers in Thompson and Associates now, and they say they don't know nothing about that invoice. They never saw it. $3.333 million in invoice for work that obviously was not done. The forensic auditor, and I can read it for you, not long. The forensic auditors wrote this. On January 16, 2009, a payment for $3.333 million was made to the law firm Thompson and Associates by CIL. We have examined the invoice from Thompson and Associates dated 30th of December, which described 4 legal matters in great detail. 4 legal matters in great detail, $3 million in legal fees, but guess what? We are now made to understand the forensic report that the money was paid not for any legal fees, but the money was really intended to go into Leroy Parris's pocket. Now, I don't know if there was any VAT on that, but you could work it out. VAT on $3.333 million is about $450,000. I hope, for goodness sake, that the Commissioner of the Control of Customs who deals with VAT is going after these people for the VAT that they should have paid. Because there's no record that any VAT was paid. But you need to understand the chronology. CLICO is about to collapse. Leroy Paris cannot write any check for a gratuity because it will look bad. The company is about to collapse and he's taking out $3.323 million. It would look too bad, it would raise eyebrows. But you know what? A company has to pay its bills. Company has to pay its bills. So somehow an invoice is rendered to CLICO that is approved not by the in-house counsel. It isn't approved by the accounts department. It isn't even approved by the general manager. It is approved by Leroy Paris himself. So let's go through it again. On the eve of CLICO's collapse, on the eve of the day when it became known that thousands upon thousands of Barbadians will have to suck salt because they did not stand the chance of getting back any of their money that they put into CLICO, on the eve of that, a pirate decided that he had to get $3.33 million of gratuity out and engage in what you could only call sleight of hand, subterfuge, trickery, dishonesty. I call it fraud. Let him sue me. What we are talking about, my friends, is a situation where a director of a company who has an obligation to act in the best interest of the company somehow or another secured a payment at a time when it was not proper for him so to do. Now, and the law firm that was the engine of that is Thompson and Associates. I want the judicial managers to understand that under the law, under Section 47 of the Act, they have an obligation to act in the best interest of the policyholders, and they must go after Paris for every penny. You see, when you research the law, you understand that Leroy Paris, as a director of the company, has a fiduciary duty to the company to act not in his own interest, but in the interest of the company. And when you are running an insurance policy, an insurance company, you should have at the forefront of your mind what is in the best interest of the insurers, of the policyholders. Now, with all this, David Thompson said on the 31st of January that CLICO was sound and well managed. How does a sound, well managed company get to pay a false invoice on the eve of its collapse? Tell me what about that is sound, or what about that represents good management? Tell me. There's an old saying that while Rome was burning, Nero was fiddling. And Thompson was enjoying his friendship with Paris, and Frondel Stewart was saying that Paris was his pal, and others were buying cars from CLICO, and all of this paints a picture of a government that had little interest in acting to safeguard the interests of the people who elected them to power. That is what you're faced with. A government that, because it suited them to honor their friendship more than to honor their duty to the people, chose to feed us with nothing but words. We got a steady diet of words. Oh, the bees stirring up problems. We want to interfere with a poor black man who comes from Lemon Harbor. We wanted to protect the poor people who paid money into CLICO day after day, month after month, but stood to lose every single penny of it. You need to understand how much money we're talking about, you know. The executive premium annuities alone is $300 million. That's $300 million that people put into CLICO. And where has it gone to today? Where has it gone to today? This, we may crack a little joke every now and again, but this is a very, very troubling state of affairs. We cannot in this day and age have a company that takes people's money and they lick it out as they please, supporting the high lifestyles of individuals who wear the suits that Trevor said they wear and drive the big cars and live a lavish life on the backs of poor people. And then those poor people today have to look to a government and say, help me. You mean we are now in a country where those individuals who did that can drive up and down the road in their fancy cars, smiling and waving, while the people who they have, whose money they have not invested properly, have to suck salt. I want to say that we in the Barbados Labour Party will not rest until every penny that has been wrongfully taken out of that company is pursued. And who has to get locked up should be locked up. And who have to get dug up should be dug up. We have not yet found a way, to punish criminally people who have passed into the great beyond. But if nothing more, he deserves every single blot on his reputation that is now falling on that reputation because he failed to act in the interests of the people in this country. Barbados is in a very difficult time. And the CLICO collapse is all part and parcel of it. Chris Sinclair, an amazing fella. You know, I read today's paper with amusement. Chris Sinclair said that he ain't seen no report. He only know about what he read in the Nation. Remember that he didn't see the letter neither. Remember that? What letter what? I only know about this letter what I saw in the Nation, and then a week and a half, 2 weeks later, when he couldn't stand the stress anymore, he had to come clean and say, there was a letter. I was one of the people who were supposed to sign it. I know everything about it. Now, there's language for that you can use, and the first letter is the same as a Leroy. Okay? So Sinclair, the Minister of Finance, a man who months ago said, I feel your pain, but he cannot bestir himself to go and get or to send for a copy of a report that damns the operations of CLICO and that lays bare all kinds of malfeasance. But he wants you to believe that he feels your pain. Just words. Just words. If I were minister of anything and anything was happening in my ministry and it get published in the press, I would be calling, let me see my copy now. How the Nation get this before me. Forget the Advocate, because you notice the Advocate ain't going nothing to talk about CLICO. At all. You know, it appears as though the Advocate does not even read the Nation. But if I was Sinclair, I would be asking for that report. I would be demanding to know what is going on in this country, that the Nation can have it spread all over the place. But Sinclair is somewhere in Dreamland, and he is content to say to the press in this country, I have not seen it. I believe that if I took that position as Attorney General with something in my ministry, Owenatha would have fired me on the spot. And it would be right to. Because if there is something so fundamental happening in the country that you have ultimate responsibility for, surely you should get up off of your ever-increasing backside and demand to know what is going on. But he didn't see the letter either. And from that short, Paris is my pal. I am not going to shun him. We were friends for years. While Rome is burning, Nero was fiddling. So for the last 3 years, we have an administration that promises pretty words, that walks up and down the Caribbean and tells all the leaders, man, we can back your play, we can make sure that everything all right when it comes to CLICO. Can you imagine that? They haven't even figured out how they're going to settle their problems at home. But they're marching up and down the Caribbean saying, don't worry, fellas in St. Vincent, we can cover you too. I want the Democratic Labour Party to outline, you know, they're hiding behind the judicial report because the law has put a process in place that has to be followed. But I really wish that instead of saying, well, I can't talk about it because it's before the courts, we can't say anything because we haven't seen the report, I would like them to just drink maybe a half glass of Lucozade, get a little energy, and apply their minds to the plight that people are feeling, and come to the people and say, listen, we have to wait on the report, but we've done enough things that we have an idea what is to come, and we have a solid plan to restore you to the position you were in. But they're waiting on the report. I believe that by now the report is on his desk. I believe that by now the report is on Frondell Stewart's desk. And they have an obligation today, tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, to come clean with the people of this country and say what they have in mind. But it's alright. An election is coming soon, see? And if there's one thing about the Barbados Labour Party, it isn't so much that we drink a lot of Lucozade, but it is that we are never afraid to bear the burdens of our people. We are never afraid to do the things that have to be done to make our people's lives better. The days of the Democratic Labour Party are numbered. They have been weighed in the balance and found. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.